So I guess the title of this video is going to be something provocative where I dump on Trump because it's so easy. But let's get something straight. Trump isn't really doing anything new. He's just accelerating the agenda. For example, a friend of mine was traveling to the United States, a Canadian man, for years, doing a little bit of work. And this last time during Biden's presidency, must have been 3 years ago now, when he went to the States, he tried. He got detained, thrown in a jail cell for 2 days, and sent back. No explanation given, just cause, right? Except he didn't make the news. Now, I'm not saying it was as bad back then as it is now for people like him, but it was happening. Biden was implementing tougher anti-immigration measures. He was decoupling from China. He was sanctioning. Things were happening much like they are under Trump, except he's the fall guy, right? He's an accelerationist. He is an absolute puppet. So I find it hard when people give him all these accolades and call him a great man or a strong man or any of these things when he's a frail geriatric who's just doing what he's told and doesn't seem to understand half the shit he's doing. Is unaware of, at least according to him, of half the shit that's happening in his cabinet, right? Let me take a sip of my coffee. He'll get on the bullhorn and talk about, doing away with sexual degeneracy and shit of that nature. Stomping the gays, right? And yet, he is a sexual degenerate. People in his cabinet, there's some rumblings about their sexual degeneracy. I mean, he was Epstein's best friend for 10 years. He did, come on, right? He'll talk about, curbing immigration because all these criminals, bad people, we don't want them. We got to send them back. We got to close our borders. And then he'll import Tate, right? Sexual fucking degenerate criminal. But here's the rub, right? The gold card. U.S. will welcome any criminal, any degenerate, anybody, so long as they got 5 million, right? That's what this is about. This ain't about really criminality or whatever. It's just, you got to pay to play. Another sip of my coffee. He's anti-DEI, supposedly, and I understand that's maybe a little more colorful than what's happening right now. But when you look at his cabinet, it's all a whole bunch of fucking sort of DEI hires, right? Let's just zoom out a little bit and talk about merit or the lack thereof, right? All these people he hired, they're incompetent. They fucking suck. And no, the criteria wasn't diversity, equity, or whatever it is, inclusion. It wasn't supposed to be colorful necessarily, right? Even though it kind of is. It was because they're loyalists, right? But it wasn't what he said it was supposed to be, right? The reason why he got rid of DEI is to hire on merit. These people didn't merit these positions. They don't know what the fuck they're doing. They're sending super duper classified information over Signal and Gmail, right? They can't even tell you what tariffs are, half of them. How tariffs work. Come on, man. They can't negotiate peace. They go into Russia and they get ignored, ridiculed. They're being, led. They're just being toyed with by someone like Putin, right? They're clearly incompetent. We were supposed to, no more foreign, faraway wars, blah blah. Oh, oh, we're just gonna bring the wars closer to home, except Gaza, right? Oh, speaking of which, that was supposed to be part of Trump's Peace Prize um, portfolio, right? Resume. Well, how's that going? Yeah, weak, right? They're incompetent. They're just puppets. They just do what they're told, and it's just become blatantly obvious that they just don't. Anyway, it is what it is. So when academic agent over here talks about the return of the great man in history, well, to me, he's dead wrong.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another video here where I'm going to be talking about the return of the great man. Now, the great man theory of history was put forward by the chap you can see in the top left there, Thomas Carlyle, in the middle of the 19th century. Carlyle is one of my favourite writers, and has been almost the patron saint of this channel for a number of years now. One of several touchstone thinkers that by which I mean those of us in this little corner of the internet, return to again and again. One of the things.
So he has a hard on for the great man.
That the liberal order has always hated is the heroic ideal, the idea of the great man of history. And Carlyle wrote an entire book. It was originally a lecture series called "On Heroes and Hero Worship." Is the name of the book. But he basically says that history ultimately is driven by these colossal figures. Okay, I mean, if you think historically, it'd be like Cyrus the Great, Alexander the Great, Charlemagne, characters like this, Genghis Khan.
Right? All warriors. I think Napoleon was like a quintessential great man when it comes to Carlyle. Now, look, I haven't read the chap. I only Wikipedia him, and academic agents, spent a significant portion of his life worshipping the dude and his ideas. So take what I say with a grain of salt, maybe even a huge one. But to me, it's odd to compare these diabetic, geriatric, fat, old, pale, no, like no muscle mass, having weak old men to someone like Genghis Khan, Alexander the Great, Napoleon, people who got on horseback, went into battle, and came within inches of losing their life many times, got wounded. These were great men. This is the types of men that Carlyle talks about. I think that time in history is long gone. These are, I'm not saying that all of them are puppets, but to a large degree, some of them definitely are. And they for damn sure ain't getting on horseback and going into battle. They're old, frail. They're just, look, to me, I get the sense that these, and Mearsheimer is, he's not a politician or a leader, but he reflects this sort of, I was thinking about him the other day and why, he sold out to Russia so easily and sold America out to Russia. Or maybe some of these ideals that America used to hold. And I came to the conclusion that these are old men, right? Who just don't give a fuck because they're not going to be around much longer. So whatever narcissistic, egotistical drives, whatever, motivates them, it's to leave a mark in history. Uh, maybe, if that's even there. Or they just simply don't give a fuck and they want to live out the rest of their lives filthy fucking rich. And maybe leave some money for children if they have any. But I mean, I understand Trump, has kids by multiple women, the trad man that he is. But it's so crazy to me how people bought into this fucking nonsense. But none of these men they don't seem like family men. So it just seems to me like they're just old and they want to, die rich. Basically, they want to live out the rest of their lives, fuck the world up. They just don't give a fuck. If they do care about legacy, it's some egotistical nonsense where people will remember them for better or for worse, so long as they're remembered. But they're just old fucks who don't give a fuck, basically, and that's why they're giving us chaos. And that's what we're entering right now, the age of chaos. These are agents of chaos. And to me, they're all very effeminate. They're bitches. Yeah, okay. They'll scream, maybe. They'll get excited. They'll do underhanded things. They'll get rid of their competition and ruthless without getting their hands dirty, right? Unlike Genghis Khan, Napoleon, and some of these other, like, real killers, real strong men. These dudes are bitches. So you want to call them strongmen insofar as authoritarian leaders who have populist support? I mean, okay, that probably applies to Putin and maybe Xi, but Erdogan in Turkey, people don't seem to like him. Trump, he doesn't have populist support in the United States. He had to lie to the people to convince them to vote for him. And that shit was probably rigged anyway. So, I mean, these aren't great men. I'll give you strong men, authoritarian bitches who just don't give a fuck. But even then, it's like, well, Trump, for example, well, he's weak as fuck. Right? Napoleon rode on horseback into Russia and fucked shit up. This fucking guy sent his real estate agent who got slapped around, sent back home, and Trump he's pissed now. Oh, he's pissed. Russia just murdered a whole bunch of children and innocent people, fucking dropping probably, illegal weapons on a fucking playground. But none of that matters because none of these conventions, agreements, all that is going by the wayside, right? That's why the global order, the old world order is going away. The rule of law, all that shit's going away. So, I mean, and Trump won't even mention it, right? Whatever happened to flatland and a bullet always kills somebody? Like this, the guy's such a fucking puppet. Moron. They just feed him these lines and he keeps repeating all this nonsense. Every bullet somebody shoots, because the land is flat, guys, will always hit a body. Because the land, like, this is not even logical, the things that he says. It's like he's not all there sometimes, Anyway, these aren't great, man. I mean, and the simple fact that he doesn't include someone like, maybe not Starmer, but Macron. I mean, if anybody's, we'll see what happens, but if anybody standing up to Russia, for example, it'd be that guy. But he doesn't include him in this because he has an authoritarian, he has a right-wing bias or whatever the fuck you want to call it. Because all these guys are gonna be, they're setting the stage for authoritarianism. It has to be thus. Because that's the world we're entering, right? The rule of law is going by the wayside. And Macron just eliminated his biggest political opponent ruthlessly, right? I mean, but that guy's not great because he represents the liberal world order. Or, homie, you got to catch up. That shit's gone. None of these guys are liberals, or it'll take a little bit for some of them to wake up, but Emmanuel over there, he surely has. Okay, so this liberal thing, like, you got to catch up, homie, because that shit's going by the wayside. So long story short, these aren't great, man. This, Putin is fucking ordering his military to bomb playgrounds. You know what I mean? Because he can't get his way otherwise. He's too weak. It's basically a stalemate right now on the front. So this is a bitch lashing out, trying to hit you. This is like a gangster who kidnaps your children, right? To to make you bend to his will. This is not a strong. Come on. So that's weird. Anyway, Trump is weak. This idea of a strong, no, he's not. He's weak. He gave in to Russia. They saw that as weakness, and that's why instead of, they said, yeah, ceasefire. Oh yeah, peace, peace, and just ramped up bombing, drones. I mean, apparently they don't have any more tanks right now, so that stopped, but not for the lack of trying. Sanctions and all this other shit is hitting them hard. So, and maybe they're getting ready for another big offensive. So, but yeah, while we're supposed to be talking about peace, one day, 24 hours, 3 days, a week, a month, 4 months, maybe sometime next year in the next century, while they're negotiating peace, supposedly Putin's just ramping up the agenda, giving a big old middle finger to Trump and his team, and Trump is just swallowing it. That's not a great man. That's not even a strong man. Oh, he's tough when he's dealing with people that have been conditioned to see him as a friendly figure, or at least in some respects, an ally. Oh, he's tough when he's stabbing people in the back. That's not a strong man. That's a coward. That's a bully, right? So stand up to someone that could actually, stand up to some of these other strong or great men. Stand up to them. Yeah. So Putin's taking advantage of Trump's weakness. Everybody knew this. If you show weakness against Russia, they'll just take advantage of you. And Trump proved to be weak, weaker than fucking Biden. Oh, but, they're all puppets. It is what it is. People get excited, or maybe they used to, because Trump would talk tough. And I guess he has charisma of a fucking psychopath and rapist. Anyway, yeah, it's disturbing how so many people have a hard on for these old geriatrics who are really just a bunch of bitches who will lash out and use state apparatus without ever getting their own hands dirty, right? To sanction, kill people all over the world, get rid of people, right? I mean, and then when some of these pawns come back home dead because, Lithuanian bog or whatever, marsh, he'll just, play around the golf and have everybody miss on purpose so that he could win, right? Strong man. I mean, come on. This is pathetic. This is fucking pathetic. He couldn't even carry his own golf clubs, probably. Great, strong man. Fuck out of here. Puppets. They're all puppets. Well, maybe not all of them, but to some degree. Yeah, now Putin's Klaus Schwab's puppet. So is Trump. That's obvious. Xi is probably connected to the WEC via Kissinger, who's Klaus Schwab's teacher, guru. So it is what it is. Macron's no different, but he's not a strong man, right? Because he's the World Economic Forum puppet and he's a liberal globalist and all this other fucking nonsense. Okay, globalism. Let's shift gears a little bit. Throughout the years, they've been brainwashing people with this like globalist bad narrative, right? They couldn't say free trade bad because that would be hard to sell, right? Globalism is not going away. It's just being restructured. All these relationships are they're just new rules basically. How we trade, whom we trade with, um, who's allowed to participate, who isn't. Who gets strangled a little bit, maybe choked out a bit. They're just globalism isn't going away. Free trade is, okay? The big difference. US is still going to do deals with Russia, right? But they might not deal with China as much, for example. But the reach and trade is still going to be global, okay? Yeah, it's going to be more regional in many instances. US will probably look to deal with Canada and Mexico, and that means usurp them in some way, shape, or form. It's going to be a lot more authoritarian. You're going to have a lot less say in how this happens, and you're going to be told what to do. Yeah, so there's going to be these different centers of power, uh, US, Russia, China, and then some, right? It's all being decided right now. And there's going to be more, perhaps, or there's going to be less global trade and more regional trade, but all of it is going to be decided by using political and military pressure, right? Maybe war in many instances. And yeah, there will be a little bit less global trade, but it's still going to be global. The trade will still be globalized. So globalism isn't going away. So if you thought globalists were bad, well, I mean, how's Trump good? Isn't he looking to make deals with Russia? That's all the way across the globe, right? What's up? I mean, he's tariffing the entire globe, isn't he? He's not saying, "Oh, we're cut off. Everyone's cut off. You're cut off." He's tariffing the entire globe, but he's not a globalist. No, the rules are just changing, and it's going to be a lot more um, big government, right? Global government. It's going to be basic. Free trade's going away. Not to say that it was always completely free, but U.S. can't. They can no longer protect all shipping lanes, and they don't want to because China has gotten too powerful due to free trade and then some probably. So that has to go. Trump is what he's doing is he's flipping over the fucking chessboard and trying to control where the pieces fall so much as he can. Okay, so if they told you free trade's going away, we're going to have more of a fascistic, instead of having like a more capitalist globalism, we're going to have more of a controlled economy capitalism. You want to call it communist or fascistic? Well, that'd be hard to sell, right? No more free trade, guys. That's all that this was about. This globalist, isolationist, or nationalist. That's all bullshit. Clearly. Duh. So yeah, globalism is not going away. Free trade is, right? Free is going away. That's what's going away. Authoritarianism is stepping in. So these tariffs, none of that. If you just investigate for 5 minutes, the justifications for the tariffs, as I stated many times, and how they're being implemented doesn't make any sense. And someone exposed that they used AI to write some of this policy to where they're tariffing penguins on some fucking desert island somewhere. Yeah, that's deserted. Penguins in the desert. Ooh. Anyway, yeah. So yeah, globalism ain't going away. It's just being now you're getting authoritarian type of globalism versus what you had before was a lot more capitalistic, if you will, more free trade. Now you're getting controlled economy. Global communism. I thought we were against that. I thought we were against, but you know that's WEC, Klaus Schwab and the like, right? Kissinger, all them people, young global leaders like Putin. That's why they agree. That's why Trump and Putin agree on so many things. Putin's like, yeah, yeah, Trump's going to take Canada or Greenland and Canada. That I support that, right? Because I want to grow my direct um, sphere of influence, or yeah, that's what's going to happen. And eventually, all these powers will they'll clash. Some of them will. There's going to be war. So this is what these tariffs are about. They're about a lot of things. Definitely raising revenue for U.S. military, and because this idea that U.S. has all this debt and they have to pay. What if they just put a gun to the Fed's head, close the Fed, or tell the Fed to shut the fuck up and swallow it? Well, what's the Fed gonna do? What's it gonna do? Pay me. Fuck you. Pow, pow, pow. China comes knocking. Hey, go fuck yourself. What are you gonna do to me? Right? So this idea of paying down the debt, I'm not too sure about that. When you could just tell them, go fuck yourself. We got a new currency now. It's called something else now. So that all those old rules, all that's going away. Debts, um, trade deals, all that stuff. Fuck you. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Step to me, right? That's why they're trying to build a fortress. They're talking about a dome, and because U.S. is probably gonna default on most, if not all, of their loans. It's just gonna go bankrupt, declare bankruptcy, and come up with the Amero, or call it whatever the fuck you want to call it. Will no longer be a global currency. It's just gonna be more regional, right? It's global trade, everything, all that shit is getting restructured. Okay, so free trade. This is what the tariffs are about, also, or maybe primarily what they're about. I think U.S. being the global policeman, right? Ensuring free trade as much as possible, allowing unfettered as much as possible, more capitalistic type globalism, can no longer afford to do that. They have to withdraw, at least from many places in the world, like Europe, for example, right? Pull your own weight. So they couldn't even, or they decided that it's not worth trying to implement and uphold the old world order, U.S. hegemony all over the world, right? And so if you defund the global police, right? We all know what happens when you defund the police, right? Chaos, crime, havoc, war. So people who complain so much about how US starts all these wars and how he's giving us all these wars all over the world, well, they had lived under Pax Americana their entire lives. They never really cared to study what the world looked like in the age of empires, or before US became the global hegemon, or had a cold war with USSR where, there was little risk of a hot war because nukes and shit. So since World War II, the world has actually experienced a relative period of peace. And people who didn't understand that kept bitching and moaning, and they were programmed to, about all these wars and the global policeman, how all of that needs to go away, right? That's because you needed to believe that needed to go away, because it was going to inevitably, whether it was a quote unquote left wing or a right wing president in the United States, the machine moved in the same direction. It's just one party, or Trump, is moving faster in that direction. He's the fall guy, right? He's taking the blame for it. That's why you were told globalism bad when, like, you actually benefited from global capitalism, free trade, benefited from it so much. And now you're starting to feel the squeeze. Tariffs, military conscription, it's coming, right? War, there's going to be, it's everyone should understand. I mean, you've been telling me you understand this, right? When you defund the police, what do you get? Chaos, war, crime, conflict, right? That's what you get. And when it came to domestic politics, the rational right understood this very, very well, right? Okay, great. But at the same time was pushing to defund the global police. You were just told to do this. People don't think for themselves. They say what, by and large, they say and repeat what they're told to say and repeat. So this is what's happening. The global police is getting defunded, and we all know what that means. We all know what that means. And these trade wars are just the preamble to hot kinetic wars. Okay, because when these different countries begin to feel the squeeze, well, all of a sudden they can't get aluminum to build their planes or whatever, because there's no aluminum in their territory. So what are they going to do? Well, they're going to look to, first and foremost, trade with someone who has the aluminum. And depending on what the power relationship is between these nations, that's going to structure how these agreements look. And in many cases, it's not going to be an agreement. It's just going to be someone dictating to someone else. And the weaker party is going to be saying, well, shit, here you go, right? Stop killing us, or don't kill us, or protect us from this big old bully over there. And in response, take my aluminum, right? Which is exactly what Trump is looking to do, both in Ukraine and Russia. Even though that's not necessarily the same type of deal exactly, but yeah. Trump tried to economically colonize Ukraine. And Ukraine said, you know what? Nah. if we are to be colonized, why can't we just make a deal with Russia? Why do we have to involve a third party and get even more fucked, right? If we're to capitulate, colonize, stop fighting, get colonized and stop fighting and give up our natural resources, we'll just gotta deal with Russia. Yeah? And here you go, Europe. The Russian army just got 1 million men bigger with all this Western kit you gave us, all this money you gave us, and all this money that we use to build up our own native military industrial complex, which isn't to say that that's what Zelensky wants to do or his team want to do, but it's a card they got, right? If we're to sell our fucking country to some faraway land that cannot even project their power that well anymore, or refuses to, doesn't give us any security guarantees, well, shit. Let's just sell out to Russia. They're next door, and they got a powerful military. Let's join forces. And that way, maybe, shit, we could take Poland for ourselves. Or at the very least, the threat of this happening will encourage Europe to not abandon Ukraine. Right? Zelensky has no cards because Trump said so. Whenever that guy competes in anything, everyone has to lie down for him and kiss his ass. He can't even compete. He doesn't know what competition is. Get out of here. He won a senior golf tournament on his own golf course. He sets the rules. Of course he's going to win. But that's what this is about, right? So yeah, this whole tariff shit, you're being lied to again. It's not about building up U.S. manufacturing again. If there might be quote unquote U.S. manufacturing plants in Mexico, right? Because those people will work in factories, right? We're just gonna move them all back home and into all these factories, and we're gonna bully Mexico to make shit for us, basically, or else, right? I mean, some Japanese companies or the Japanese government pledged to invest. By now, it sounds like $1 trillion+ into the United States, and they still got fucking sanctioned, or tariffed. So I mean, well, gee, What is this really about? Let's keep it real. Tariffs aren't just going to magically bring all this manufacturing back to the United States. How? Can somebody explain this mechanism to me? How that's going to happen? When all these, oh, I don't know, let's say US didn't produce cars, or there's something that they don't produce that they need to bring back home. So you tariff, let's say, jeans that come from China to the United States, because that's people. I've seen people bandying that idea about jeans. Make your own. Oh, I don't know how. Oh, okay, but you're gonna go into a factory and make jeans, but you don't know how. If they make jeans more expensive for Americans by means of these tariffs, well, isn't that in a way maybe more money for the people that make the jeans abroad at some point? I mean, because to build a factory in the United States will take so much investment, upfront investment. Why would anybody want to do that? Just to charge the same amount? Or maybe they'll get a little bit more if they sell them domestically because they won't be tariffed. Are you sure they won't be tariffed? And that's another thing. Like, there's no faith in anything right now. There's no stability. That's not an environment that's conducive of investment. No one knows what this fucking Trump's gonna do, really. That doesn't spell investment opportunity, right? The world is looking less and less stable. There's chance of armed conflict more than as of recently. That's not a great environment for investment unless it's military. So when Trump's talking about building up U.S. manufacturing base, it's mostly gonna be military technology or dual use stuff, probably, because that's the world we're entering. So that, yeah, they're gonna pump money into that and make sure they can, do that. U.S. has enough energy and food to feed itself. So your avocados are going to be more expensive, or bananas are going to be more expensive. Well, not if Ecuador, which is what it's looking like, becomes a U.S. You know, part of the U.S. too, in a sense. So I mean, yeah, these tariffs. It's I think Trump's just flipping over the fucking chessboard and trying to control where the pieces fall, and looking to destabilize the whole world because they can no longer provide stability. It's too expensive. So Trump is an agent of chaos and hoping to the people behind Trump are destroying the old world order in order to see what emerges and hoping to come out as winners in the end, because the way the game was being played up until this point, China was on the rise and US was descending. So they need to change the game basically, and one way is to just fucking implode the whole thing, blow it all up, and try to rise up out of the chaos. Because at the very least, if you're the one causing it, initiating the chaos, maybe, and it's all so uncertain as to what's going to happen next, and you still have that power as the United States, right? US is still dictating to the whole world what happens, so they're still in control more so than anybody else of the process that's happening currently, which gives them a leg up in this race, right? I think that's what they believe. Let's flip over the fucking chessboard, implode the entire system as it is, and because we're the ones in control of what happens next, at least to some degree, we have a head start and we could emerge from the chaos as the most powerful. No longer a global hegemon, but still the most powerful. Because the way the old game is being played, it wasn't looking good for us. So we got to destroy that violently, abruptly, and try to control the process where we still come out as winners. That's, I think, ultimately what Trump, tariffs, and this quote unquote deglobalization, new world order, that's what this is about. New world order. It's a chance for everybody, every state out there, every country to change their place in this global ranking system. It's an opportunity, even for maybe not for everybody, really, but it's a chance for like medium, mid-tier countries to really come up. Also, so long as they play their cards right, and I think some people in Ukraine are starting to understand that. So when that woman said we're fighting for the new world order, maybe she was talking about Ukraine's place in it and, coming up, rising like a phoenix from the ashes. Whether they're right or wrong, time will tell, but I think that's what some people are thinking. They're understanding what's going on and they want to have a better place in this new world order than where they did in the old world order. And if you look at Ukraine, once again, it was kind of stuck between Europe and USSR, let's just call it what it is, where Europe wasn't really willing to bring them in and help elevate them. And Russia just wanted to absorb and usurp and dictate to them where they didn't get a say. Now they actually have a say. They actually have a say because they could blackmail Europe against Russia and they could fend off Russia, at least for a little bit. And maybe they could. I think a lot of politicians in Ukraine are seeing how they could rise up and become more than what they were before. So maybe that's what that parliamentary member in Ukraine, whose name history has already forgotten, maybe that's what she meant when she said we're fighting for the new world order, because we're fucking, the current old world order ain't really serving us. So we need something new, we need something different. And I think the sentiment seems to be spreading. And I think leaders all over the globe are realizing what's happening. Some are not, unfortunately, and they want to get a head start in this race, right? Which isn't to say U.S. is racing against, or Ukraine is racing against U.S. or Russia, but they're definitely racing against Poland, for example. Maybe even Turkey. Yeah. So, yeah, tariffs. I don't know why it's so difficult for people to like realize that the guy that's lied to you about everything is still lying to you, and there has to be a second bottom to all of this, maybe even a third. So, like, let's do away with these old veneers, like the great man and all this other bullshit, because the world is different than what it was before. There's some similarities. There's some, it's analogous in a sense to, well, the age of empires, but I mean, at the same time, it's very different because there's more powerful empires than ever before. And there's actually, seems to me anyway, more competing powers than ever before. And there's more of a chance for mid-tier players to maybe even become a regional empire, more so than ever before. And that's also because globalization. Anyway, yeah, the return of the great men. They're all puppets. The great man went into the shadows because they didn't want to get on the fucking horse and potentially risk their life in battle. Thanks for watching.